Olszynski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olszynski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olszynski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olszynski, the founding partner of the Olszynski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. We're back after a Charlotte FC win, after two Charlotte FC wins, one in the Open Cup and one in New York. Honestly, after a terrible first half, but we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Zaha being back and all the latest with him. We're going to talk Open Cup, and we're going to talk Orlando and Nashville this week. So the games are coming thick and fast for Charlotte FC. And we also have my co-host here, Mr. Brian. Bam Mauer Media, how are you today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just hanging out. Three dudes hanging out with good hair. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great answer. Great answer. We also have Mr. Justin Olszynski here. How are you today? I know yesterday you didn't have the greatest news. Correct?
Yeah. It was tough for me to have to come in here today and face the music, but
Hey, we timed it right after a Liverpool-Everton game. What a way to start the week.
Respect to just addressing the elephant in the room without giving Jorge the first chance to go for it.
Hey, your team didn't do so high in the Prem either.
No, that's how I'm trying to dodge.
Nice, awesome. Well, with that said, let's get right into it. Charlotte versus New York City, right? I mean, I mentioned it a little bit as well. That first half wasn't the greatest, and so honestly, we should have been down one or two goals. Magnificent cleanup performance. We saw a couple of changes. We saw Wilfried Zaha back, a local from the start. Brant Bronico back in the lineup. Your initial thoughts on the game, Brian?
Yeah, I think there was the reason Aloko was in was, and Dean kind of mentioned this post-match as well, just a little bit more of a direct player. It seemed like Dean realized that they were probably going to be behind the ball a decent amount in this game, and that was clearly evident after especially the first half, but really the whole game was like 35% possession, and so just having a player a little bit faster, a little bit more direct at the top of the line to just try to give yourself a chance in those quick countering opportunities. Didn't pan out at all really in the first half. I think that was my one concern, is just they couldn't find a way to relieve pressure during large stretches of that game, and then also just create anything in the final third. Luckily that changed in the second half, but sometimes on the road, better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Better to be lucky than good. Justin, your initial thoughts? I mean, it looked kind of grim after that first half.
Yeah, I mean, it was just all over the top direct play and couldn't get anything. And I mean, without Kalina, you start to wonder how many games and how long is he going to be able to put up performances like this? Because he had at least 3 saves that a step down and keeper isn't going to make. And, he saves us every time. And so maybe that's what Charlotte's saving the Zaha money to give it to Kalina.
Yeah, I want to say there was 1 or 2 shots in the first half by Hannes Wolf that he had some phenomenal saves on it in the second half on Maxi. And so just talk to us about that. Let's start with what Justin just mentioned, Kalina and his performance coming in clutch again.
Yeah, and I thought Morrison and Ream had a couple moments as well where they had to come up with some big blocks. It's just like the whole back line really had to kind of bunker in there, at least for large stretches. The first 30 minutes for sure was pretty much all New York, but also just the stat line of shots for versus against after the first half, it was like 10-0. So, I mean, that also tells a pretty stark example of that whole story of that first half for me was just you couldn't get anything created in the final third. Couldn't just find any moments to relieve that pressure, and then New York just had multiple opportunities to find chances. And upside is going into the break when you're still 0-0, probably in a situation where you should have been down a goal or two. I think that actually did weigh on New York as they get into the second half, because you think as a team, home team, putting a lot of pressure on your opponents, feel like you should be up a goal or two.
Right.
As that game continues, I felt like you could kind of tell New York was like letting it slip and the momentum was falling away, and Charlotte took advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we saw was Aloko from the start. He's kind of had, ripping it up in Crown Legacy, and now went from, signing to the first team to actually getting a first start. Justin, what did you make of his performance and a guy that's kind of on a meteoric rise at Charlotte FC?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy watching him play. I think he created dangerous opportunities, a one-on-one. He's just a more dynamic player than anyone we have on the wing.
Right.
And that includes Zaha. I think Zaha has a better passing ability, obviously, up and creates a little bit more, but that just pure skill set in terms of beating guys and creating that danger. And he seems to be extremely well at getting the ball in the box in dangerous spots. And
he had one or two crosses I remember that were really, really, really good. And so what does this mean for Abada? Brian, obviously we've talked. He's got plenty of chances, and it looks like those chances are coming to an end.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any minutes this game, and I think Vargas coming in and getting the game winner also seals a fate a little bit there. I mean, you've now got three guys all capable of playing on the right wing. Aloko seeming to be the more direct option, which is, I think, also would have been a reason why Abada would get minutes in a lot of circumstances. So if Dean favors Aloko, I just don't know where he then fits as the third option. I think that's because I think Vargas still, for me, probably week to week gets more starts. I think this was tactical and specific to this game. Aloko probably also having earned the reps, but I'd imagine there's a decent chance Vargas gets the start on Wednesday. Just also scoring the goal. He's in good form, but at the same time, I think there's just more reasons in different situations where Dean is probably going to want Vargas out there, and then Aloko being your more direct player option. I don't know how Abada gets on the field right now.
Yeah, well, they've got a lot of games coming up thick and fast. So, I mean,
but
he's
Zaha's
got that.
still going to play every minute, right? I mean, Zaha's going to play every minute probably on the left. And so do you really need a third? I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe there's at least a sub situation or something like that. But I feel like if you're running with Aloko and Vargas, who both have hotter hands at the moment and who Dean seems to be favoring, it's definitely, the minutes get tough.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's similar to like Morris and Najimon. He came in and performed well. I'm like, okay, well, like he's definitely earning more time, and we see that more and more with Aloko. And so he came in and looked like he's an MLS player. So that's a positive sign for Charlotte FC right now as well. And so also another guy that came this weekend was Wilfried Zaha, right? And so after being suspended in a much needed game against Nashville, he comes back and he was one of the orchestrators of that first goal.
Both goals.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just almost made the same pass for both of them.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
That like kind of through ball in, finding Toffolo on the first one, who then put a really nice touch in for Toklamati to just finish it off well. And then after that, Zaha finding Biel on a pretty similar play, cross and switch a little bit. But I mean, still, it shows how valuable Zaha is to this team, being able to either play out wide or in this situation where they were having a hard time getting a handle on the game, shift Zaha more centrally and help create in the middle. And so just having a player who can do both of those things and find that cutting pass, I think is something that Charlotte overall has just limited on their roster. Who are the players who can find that cutting through ball, that final pass that just makes the difference?
Absolutely. I mean, given his situation, I mean, it's done at Charlotte. Like, as much as we are getting messages saying that it's not done, it's done. But given the situation, seeing, I'm letting you know, and I let you know last week too.
Yeah,
I mean that. Anyway,
you made it sound way more done just now.
Justin, What do you make of Zaha? You know, obviously, I think these two games show you the impact of a player like him. The one in Nashville against Nashville, where we lost and we could have used him in a game. And I always reference this. You know, DPS are going to show up in 5 to 8 MLS games where you're going to we need that type of player that makes a difference. And he showed up again in New York.
Yeah, I mean, his talent is undeniable. I think we will miss him. But at the same time, I try and be optimistic. If we can, I think that's kind of why we're bringing the Loco now, because we know Abada isn't an answer on any question besides who do we need to get rid of. We put Karen Vargas and Loco on the two wings. Maybe bring up Berchimas if we don't get another DP when Zaha leaves. We are a little bit more dynamic, a little faster on the wings, a little bit more creative, but. Yeah, I mean, Zaha's game, while he does make those passes, he also slows up, breaks. He likes the contact. He likes the physicality of things. And the MLS doesn't call those. You know, I mean, when he gets fouled and he gets chopped, they're not calling most of those. And he gets frustrated. So, you know, and in some ways there's positive, negative. I try and look at the young prospects we have coming, and, you know, we could make hopefully a smooth transition into that. You know, maybe it makes us a better team.
Yeah, it's just hard to replace goal. What did Zoran say at the beginning of the season? Goals and assists. The guy's providing goals and assists, you know, and just we need a DP that's gonna make a difference. And you know, I mean, clearly we've seen it with Abada. He doesn't, right? And we've had other DPs in that similar situation. So it's really frustrating not being able to get something done with him. And I mean, he's got 40 days left at Charlotte, something like that.
I mean, we talk about it again and again and again, but the continuity and cohesion, Zaha and Biel specifically seem to really be combining well this year. And so now right now it seems to be your key, just attacking threat is those two combining, whether it's directly on goals and assists or setting each other up to then provide the goal or the assist. I mean, you lose that. Now you have to kind of start all over with who then is combining and connecting with Biel week after week after week, because that's what's been happening, right? I mean, Biel's obviously getting a goal or an assist almost every week, and a large part of that is because of what Zaha is also providing.
Absolutely. Moving on to another player, Idan Tokolomati, you know, a lot of pressure has been on him this last week, especially, you know, seeing Archie come off the bench, score, seeing Archie start in the Open Cup, score, you know. And so we talked about healthy competition, and we talked about essentially, you know, seeing the bench a game or two, but, you know, he does what a striker does and then score goals. And when you're scoring goals, you know, you position yourself as that number 9. He's got the 9 shirt. And so what did you make of his game?
I think it was an important goal for him to score, for sure, especially after, I asked Dean directly during the presser that week, is Goodwin asking questions of you whether or not he deserves not just more minutes, but potentially a start over Idan? And Dean said, yes, in my head, yes, and in Idan's head as well. And so for a coach to come out and say that, I feel like that's definitely turning the dial up on the pressure for you. If you're Idan and you hear that, that's I need to perform ASAP. Yes, he let me not suit up for the U.S. Open Cup game, which I think is a clear sign that he was going to start this weekend. But still, if your coach says that, that's a clear indicator. You got to score sooner rather than later. And so for him to respond to that with the goal, even though I would say he, as well as most of Charlotte FC, did not have a great first half.
Yeah.
But for him to respond with getting your chance in the box and tucking it away as the first shot of the game is clutch. I mean, that's important. And I mean, it set up the whole really change in dynamic for the rest of that game after pretty much stealing the goal, stealing the point, stealing the momentum. And so being involved directly in that and getting the goal is what you're supposed to do as a striker.
Absolutely. Justin, Idan Tokolomati?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Brian said in terms of finishing that opportunity. There's a lot of people, you know, in maybe even previous seasons that we don't see that goal get finished. I mean, it was a tight window for him to control and get it past the keeper. So he continues to score, and he continues to score in different ways. It's going to be tough to overtake him, but, you know, we're lucky this season that we have the opportunity to replace him with someone who we trust to get goals. So, it's all positive in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing that was answered for me, at least these last 2 weeks, was could there be somebody to push Idan Toklamati? And I think Archie's earning that one through really good hard work. That's like the number one thing you need as a player is that work ethic, right? The second, I think, is the talent, and we're starting to see more and more of it. And I think he's going to be an important player for us this season. And if he's putting pressure on Idan Toklamati, then that's a very positive thing, because you get things like what happened this weekend, where okay, Idan is, establishing himself again as the right number 9. And so for me, that's the biggest positive that I get out of that. And so also, we didn't talk about this, but Tim Ream was taken off, and so Andrew Privet came on. And, obviously Andrew had a tough start to the season, lost his starting spot to Morrison Ajiman. But what did you make of that, Brian?
I mean, I don't think he put too many feet wrong during the second half performance for him. And then obviously you just have to wait on Ream. More diagnosis from that tomorrow, likely. Dean in the post-match presser said, I think he tweaked his groin 35th minute, was able to hold out for the whole half, but then had to be replaced at half. So we'll see. With a busy double game week schedule, I could easily see him missing some time. So it's good for Privet to get a run out. I thought it was also interesting that he did get the run out over Kessler, because it seems like, based on what Dean has said, based on Kessler's most recent performance at U.S. Open Cup, they both played the full 90, if I'm not mistaken, during the most recent game, the U.S. Open Cup game midweek. And so
I don't think he was on the bench either. Was Kessler on the bench for Charlotte FC
this last week? Oh, I didn't. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, so I don't think he was on the bench, but we can double check that here. And our stats guy's on it right now. Justin, what did you make of that substitution? Obviously, Andrew Privet came in and he helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know about the injury when I was watching it. I thought maybe it was a strategic decision, knowing that they have, or once they got the 1-up lead, that he was going to be more involved in an aerial attack, and maybe he would provide a better coverage in that regard. I didn't notice anything in terms of him being as slow as I recall early in the season. I think that was one of his reasons for the benching, was he was particularly slow and a little out of shape. So I didn't notice any of that, which is a good thing. Hopefully the next game we'll see in terms of his fitness and his ability to. I think he's got the instincts. It's just keeping himself together.
Yeah, maybe because it was a baseball pitch,
Yeah. That's why I put him on.
Little tighter space. And Kessler was not on the bench. Good shot on there.
Look at that. Yeah. Elite ball knowledge.
Ball, yeah.
Every once in a while, I get something right. And so, yes. All right. And then another thing I want to talk about is the team's ability to turn things around. I think that's important, like 100%. You mentioned earlier, away from home, sometimes you just got to win, right? And so this was one of those games where I was like, oof, this is feeling like it's going to be a 2-0 against Charlotte, but they were able to turn it around in the second half. And that's going to be very important if this team wants to be shooting for a top 4 spot, and so right now they're currently 3rd, and so a big win, which is the irony here is that the 2 games we expected them to win, Miami and Nashville, rotated teams, they weren't able to win. And so if you would have gotten 4 points out of that, you'd be top of the East right now. So just beating Nashville, you would have been top of the East. If you would have won this game as well. And so, but who plays a large contribution into that is Pep Biel. Brian, talk to me about Pep Biel.
I mean, he's just been clutch week after week after week. I think what's impressive about him compared to maybe just Charlotte's past DPs, Karol Swiderski obviously being the main example, is that, Karol had, and I think his stat will probably hold for a while, because he had 6 games where he had multiple goals, because Karol would do this. He would score in bunches, come up in big games, but what I think he didn't do quite as well is just show up consistently week after week after week, and that's what Pep has done since he's come into the league. And now with 13 game-winning goal contributions, 8 goals and 5 assists, and 43. Right, that's a pretty good return. There's if you just score that many goals or contribute that many goals, regular, not even just game winning over that. That's a decent clip and decent return on investment. So the fact that you're winning that many games over your short tenure so far, I mean, he's just been clearly and obviously their most important player, and I think that's a big reason why you got to find just bubble wrap him all season, like Dean Smith said, and just make sure he's ready for the playoffs.
Absolutely. Justin, is Pep Biel the best DP in Charlotte FC's short history?
Well,
Put
that
you on
might
the
be.
spot.
I mean, that might be a little too quick, just from he hasn't really done it more than a full season, or he hasn't done it a full season because of the injury last year. So I'd still put Swiderski ahead of him, but I mean, if he plays this full season, he continues his form, I would put him in that category. Although, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you would ignore that.
Between him and Abada.
Between him and Abada. Those guys are interchangeable, those pieces. And then, speaking of, I was thinking maybe when we lose the maybe we put Abada as the backup to Biel in the center. I mean, he can't be any less than, I mean, he doesn't contribute on the wing, so I think he has something, but it's just not finishing.
Interesting to say the least.
I'm trying to refigure this lineup in my head on the fly, but I wasn't prepared for that.
Brian, for you?
I think he is the best. I think he's come up in clutch moments. I think having a player that's just contributing week after week after week, I think there's nothing really to compare clutch postseason yet for either. And I think that's a big issue. I mean, you had Carroll with the goal against Orlando to force PKs in a game 3, but then he misses the PK in that shootout. So it's like, if you had like a playoff series win that you were kind of like had, in your cabinet, then I think that's a big part of it. But I think since neither of them do, Biel has led this team further up the table and been just a key piece that, I mean, he was in the MVP conversation, I would say, at least
at the beginning of last season,
last year. And I think there's an argument that he likely will be again this year based on just where his production numbers are at so far. He's right around the top of the league in goal contributions. And again, I don't think Karol Swiderski really ever paced that. There would be stretches where he would get kind of close because, again, he would have...
That's a fair point.
But I feel like Biel is consistently pacing near the top of the goal contributors in all of MLS, and he's done this now for going on his second full season. Yeah,
I think that was the best way of putting it. Yeah, that's what I was going to get into. Like, I think what's truly going to define it is postseason,
Yes,
is he able to, do a line-breaking pass where Toklomati scores or, like just pull out some magic, and so but I mean, he's doing phenomenal now. One of the questions that we had going into this season is, are we going to see the same Pep Biel that we saw, of the first half of last season? And I think that question has been answered for me, and so he's assisted, he's scoring goals, he's coming up clutch, he's finding guys, right? He talked about the pass that he gave Kerwin Vargas. He tried it before, in that same match, and so, I think he's definitely in that conversation now for me, and so I think, like Justin said, if he finishes out the season, then the way he's doing it, he's definitely in there. And I think, with the MLS All-Star Game coming, he's got to be a shoe-in for that.
Dean is it's like Kalina, Biel are for sure on the team.
Absolutely. Who else would you have on there? That'd be interesting. Well, I know we're going kind of off topic quickly, but... I feel like those are two.
I bet you Dean puts Westwood out there for sure.
Yeah,
I think those three.
Maybe would you say maybe Brant Bronico just for what he represents Charlotte? Or
if Dean brought Brant Bronico, I think that would be really. I mean, I would be surprised if he did.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I could see Dean doing it because
he's going to be like, I'm the coach of this.
Yeah, I mean,
and based on what we've seen from Dean, I don't think he's too excited to be the coach of the MLS All-Star Game.
No, there's going to be some good media questions as we get closer to the big day there. I could easily see Dean bringing 4 or 5 guys. I mean, obviously, I think Dean is quite a bit higher on Charlotte FC's players, obviously, compared to really everybody else in MLS, because Charlotte's only ever had Ajimon nominated, and that was that was the the commissioner's pick, and then he wasn't even able to represent. And
Yeah,
so
that was
Charlotte
just to
have
get a
never
couple
had-
extra million from Derby, which helped out.
Yeah, 100%. But I bet you Dean makes up for all the lack of Charlotte FC players receiving votes by getting in a few for sure.
Yeah. Justin, anyone that you want to give a shout out to? Early contention for maybe Tim Ream, since he's U.S. men's national team player.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that.
Obviously, Kalina and Pep, I think, are like
Yeah,
shoo-ins.
those guys are shoe-ins. I mean, you could see some of that favorability in terms of the U.S. squad. Yeah, I mean, if Toklamati puts a few more in, I mean, you could see him getting some consideration. I don't know outside of that we have
Anyone,
anything.
that's kind of at that level.
Problem is for Toklo is there's a lot of young strikers right now that are crushing it out of the gate. So
Absolutely. And then I do want to talk a little bit about, and this will be the last topic, and we'll get into the Open Cup just a little bit, Luca De La Torre came in as well. Even these two past games, like, at least in the Open Cup, I would have felt like he would have, like, done more, and I just still not seeing the best Luca De La Torre just yet.
yeah, I think there was a couple flashes during the home stretch where he was coming in as a sub and really showing that he could like add an element to their possession play. I think this game, bit of an outlier one, just again because I don't feel like Charlotte really, even when Dean said they made like the adjustments and dropping Pep BL deeper, I really still don't feel like Charlotte ever got a foothold in pretty much this entire game, and it felt like the goals they got were kind of against the run of play, stealing momentum and a little bit of back and forth. So I would say this one for me, I'm going to reserve too much judgment on him just because it seemed like this game was them really having to just find a way to fight and scrape by and get out of there with 3 points, which they did. And for me, that's not really Luka's strength. So it was just like, can he help this team hold on to the ball a bit? And it was just a tough match for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything on Luca De La Torre, Justin? I mean,
it's been disappointing. I mean, to say the least. I mean, we expected him to contribute, especially creating more opportunities on the attack, and we haven't seen really any of that. I think we've maybe seen 1-2 passes that were set up some goals.
He's got one assist so far, I think.
Yeah, it's been disappointing, but players grow into their roles and how coaches want to see them play. So we try and remain optimistic, but it is a little disheartening. We invested a lot into him, and to see him struggle, it's tough.
Absolutely. On the plus side, if he does find his foot, that's just a huge benefit for Charlotte FC.
100%.
And so, awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the Open Cup a little bit, and so obviously Charlotte with a 6-0 win against Charlotte Independent. They went down a man too, though. So I mean, like, it wasn't 6-0 is a great score, but you're also playing a third division, a USL League One team, and you're a man up. So there's really, like, outside of the scoring, players scoring, like, there's really not. I don't think there's much that we learned from this game, Brian.
No, I mean, we got a lot of guys their debuts with Charlotte FC. We got a lot of guys their debut goals, which I think is all positive. I do think that led, at least partially, to the team getting the result on the weekend against New York. I do think games like that help build momentum within the entire group, and it just kind of lifts everybody up. When you have the entire squad contributing to the results of this team throughout the course of the season, I think that does benefit. And so I think just mentally, just in your psyche, it helps the whole group, even if they're out there or not. And I think another thing that Dean mentioned about the togetherness of this group was that everybody who wasn't on the roster showed up and watched the game.
Yeah,
I think that's really important. I think
even Zaha.
Yep, Zaha, everyone. So I think and Dean didn't ask them to. He gave them the day off. They could have not come.
Yeah, but there's nothing to do on Wednesday nights in Charlotte too. So
I'm
kidding.
I'm a dad of a 4 and a 2-year-old, so I'm not the one to comment either way on that.
One guy I do want to give a shout out to is Henry Kessler.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously he was missing Saturday, but gets a start, puts up a goal. He talked about the set piece coach as well. So he said he could have had 2 goals that match. And so, we talked a little bit about Archie Goodwin pushing for his start. I feel like Henry Kessler's kind of right there as well.
Yeah, and I think to go on that, what this game presents, we had a lot of good performances, and I mean even just Berchimas coming in getting that goal. I think
Yeah,
him
absolutely.
and Loco have a connection
Yeah.
on the opposite wings, and that's something that it's going to push the whole team.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of these players come in, they show in an Open Cup that they can perform. That puts pressure on. That makes everyone better. So, like you said, at the center back position is one of those, and the wings, every real position we played well at.
Yeah. Brian, is it just that these guys have played for Crown Legacy and they knew that stadium really well?
Well, I mean, I was gonna point out legacy. I wasn't gonna say the stadium had the role, but I do think this is an advantage of taking MLS Next Pro seriously and actually giving guys you intend to eventually get first team reps together at the Next Pro team as they learn and grow together. It does transition from the second team to the first team. We've seen this with Columbus Crew. They won the championship at Next Pro, and then a lot of those guys were a part of that team that won MLS Cup with Wilfred Nance. And I think that happened. You see that's happened kind of year over year, where teams are doing really well in MLS Next Pro. They're then getting reps with the first team, and they're already kind of a part of the group, and they just know how to flow from one team to the next. And it just the barrier and the gap in the learning curve is just way smaller.
Absolutely. And then Nash Bishers commented, speaking of set pieces, how about that Schnegg free kick? And I was just about to talk about him too. He looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Obviously offensively, he was putting in some really good crosses, and then, that goal, was phenomenal. And so talk to me about David Schnegg.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see the added asset, especially from this game. The corner kicks he also took in this game. I think he had at least one assist from corner kicks.
That's right.
Maybe even two. He was taking great set pieces, whether it was the free kick on the goal or, again from the corner. And I think just adds another dynamic to what this team can do offensively. I think there's still definitely some question marks as he learns this group and how to play positionally, especially on the defensive side of things. I think Dean weighs heavily.
Absolutely,
he's not going to care how good you are technically, how good you are in the attacking third. If you're not doing what he wants, two ways. He's a big on two-way play. There's a reason why Kerwin Vargas has never lost a step in terms of just Dean giving him reps, and a big part of that is his willingness to play two ways. And I think that's going to be. That's the reason why I think Toffolo gets a lot of the work out there. I think him and Zaha specifically just are starting to really connect well on the left wing, and so I think for Schnegg to get an expanded role, he's going to have to really adapt to that. How does he add that extra threat he brings in the attacking third? How does he, mitigate that with just still maintaining, his positioning in the defensive third?
Absolutely. Justin, with the games coming so fast and thick for Charlotte FC, seeing that there's positions that, other players can replace, how important is that?
Well, I think, what we touched on at the beginning of this season, before our first podcast here, was depth. And I think we're seeing that we have depth at almost every position. And it's great as the season progresses, as, little injuries happen here or there. You got a bunch of games. You got to give some guys rest. We have the depth to be a top 4 team. The only position we really don't have a solid backup in is Pep Biel. Our whole offense essentially is him staying healthy and him being on the pitch, because if I don't know what their plans are, if any, for a DP spot, but we probably need to bring in some reinforcements in that area, at least if he goes down. He is our one irreplaceable player.
Yep, I agree on that aspect of things, and so hopefully he stays healthy and continues to contribute. Awesome. Let's move on then, because we're going to be talking about 2 different games, and it feels like a tale of 2 different teams. First, let's start with Orlando, who's had a terrible season so far.
Yeah.
Last in the Eastern Conference. I think they have 1 win so far.
Yep.
And so, Brian, what can we expect? Obviously it's an away match, tricky game, but you should be heading in there as the favorites, no?
Yeah, for sure, and with a lot of confidence, especially after getting 3 points against New York. Again, on the road, I feel like I'm not going to be as critical of how they perform as long as they're getting results, because that's the big deal. Can you get points on the road and stack them up for those points you do end up dropping at home? I do think they should definitely control the ball and control the game a lot more than they did against New York. New York is one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and Kalina gave New York a lot of respect, saying he thought they were a top 3 opponent that Charlotte was going to play this year. Orlando, nowhere near that. They lost a lot of players in the offseason. They've made a lot of changes. They also have some key players out again in the midfield. Janssen is back, which I think definitely helps them defensively a lot. There was a stretch where they've already given up 5+ goals in like 4 games this season. They're like on
5-0 against New York City,
5-0
5-0 against Nashville, 6-0 against LAFC.
Yeah.
So that's all in the time span of like a month.
Yeah. So they've given up a ton of goals. They're on like a historic run defensively right now, in not a good way. But since Janssen's in back, they've only given up 1 goal against in their last 2. So I will say, I don't think that's all. I think that's just them starting to figure things out. Also, Columbus Crew have not been a good team this year, so there's that to consider as well. So I don't expect a 5-0 drubbing, but I do expect more control from Charlotte FC, and just the expectation should be a 1-point minimum, but definitely get out of there with 3.
Nice. Justin, what kind of improvements are you looking from Charlotte FC? Obviously, when you get a win in New York, you're going to take that. But we saw also that game could have went south really fast.
Yeah, I think what we're looking for, especially when you have an opponent who isn't playing as well, just because you're on the road, and I imagine with these next 2 games, you kind of get the end of each spectrum, where I'd expect the Nashville game to be kind of like the New York City, where we're playing direct, pulling it back and letting them possess the ball. I would expect in Orlando take advantage of their weak defense, control it, break them down. I would want to see that. I want to see them play both ways this week on the road, instead of just every road game playing counterattack, playing direct. Try and control this game against a weaker opponent.
Absolutely. What kind of changes should you expect for this start? Let's start off with Orlando, Brian. Obviously Tim Ream's a doubt. He's probably not going to play, most likely not going to play this week. So we'll see some changes in the center back. Where else would you see some changes?
I think this could be an interesting. You mentioned more possession and just more ball control. I would say Luca De La Torre fits that bill. So I'd be interested to see if he can get a start in this one. Change things up, especially with the midweek. And then I think Vargas ends up being out on the right wing. I think Aloko got the start this last Saturday, specifically because, again, the direct play, knowing they were going to be against the ball a little bit more. I think with a little bit more ball control, you want to have Vargas there, especially for the cover. When they do inevitably lose the ball in turnovers, you want to have a guy there quick to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to mention that. I feel like Luka got a great shout in the Open Cup. We really didn't see a lot from him, at least not what I was expecting. And so I think this is a perfect opportunity for him against a team like Orlando to build this confidence, to start dictating that midfield. And so I'm also curious to see where I think Archie gets a start this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be against Orlando or Nashville, and so, but I'm pretty sure he'll get him from the get-go. And so just because three games in 7 days is very tough. And so
I would put more money, I think, on him starting this Wednesday, just because they've had a week to week. And so I like that point. I didn't think about that at first.
Absolutely. Do you see maybe David Schnegg getting a start as well?
Against Orlando, more likely than against Nashville.
Yes. I would say that too, especially like you mentioned, Justin, we got to see some more offensive, more dictating from this team. And I think Charlotte, when they have an opportunity to answer some questions for us, they don't answer those questions, and so this game, Justin, feels like an opportunity for them to say, okay, let's show, we can beat the worst team in the Eastern Conference right now and start fighting. Because if you win that game, you're 2 points off of Nashville at top of the East.
Yeah. This has been one of those opportunities that we've squandered in the past and disappointed. So hopefully this is a new squad, deeper. Because in games like this, you kind of want to put in a few subs, so you're fully rested for the Nashville game. It's going to be a bigger long-term prospect. You hope that you're a few subs in here, you can still control this game and win. I mean, I don't think the difference between Toklamati and Goodwin is that significant, so that seems like an easy adjustment. I don't know if Dean's ever going to take out Zaha, if he ever can, but I mean, it would be a game where you could see that, I think, happening. Although, I mean, they give Abada some time opposite Vargas. You could see that as an opportunity to rest Zaha, but I don't think Zaha's going to let him do that.
No.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't expect Biel to rotate either. I mean, if you're looking at these next two games, you got to, if you're thinking of like, where do we got to get 3 points from? It's from the Orlando game. So if you rotate too much.
It's a great point.
Especially because, I mean, obviously, probably. I can wait for the Nashville comments until we get there, but
I would ask you what's threatening about Orlando right now. You know, what should Charlotte be looking out for?
well, they still have good players. I mean, I think Martin Ojeda is an excellent player in this league, and he's been productive. I think Paslick as well. Like they have some good players. I think they just have a lot of new pieces. They have a lot of young U22 players that have come in, and it's hard to bank on them just adjusting right away. And then they let some of their veteran key guys, especially in the midfield, like Cesar Araujo, like walk. And so when you lose key guys in your midfield, I mean, it would be the same for Charlotte. Like, we've talked about when is Westwood's end coming to Charlotte, and like those are gaps that are hard to fill because of how much work they do on both ends of the field. And so I think that's where Orlando's dealing with right now, is just the cohesion between all of their lines. And so
Absolutely, but also having said all of that, too, I mean, they just lost to Houston, who's not a great team.
No, they're okay. They have a really good DP, though. Guilherme, if you guys haven't heard about him, I mean, he's taking this league by storm. I mean, I think he's leading the league in goal contributions, and he's just gotten here like at the beginning of the season, so definitely a newcomer of the year.
Absolutely. All right, Orlando, any quick score predictions for that game? Justin?
I'm going to go 2-0.
Nice.
2-0.
Who scores them for you?
I think Vargas is going to get one, and I think Pep Biel.
Okay, nice little pep in his step.
Dang, he kind of took my scoreline and goal scorers.
Sure. Dang.
I'll go
Abada with a brace.
I'll go 3-0. I think Charlotte comes in really strong this midweek game, and they know there's a job to do, and I think they know that they need to respond after New York's first half. I think this is the first time we get to really see them perform well in the first half on the road. I think that's one thing we've also missed, is just the energy out of the gate. And so I think they go into the half with a lead and then 3-0.
Nice. Awesome. Who scores them for you?
Biel, Vargas, and Toklo.
Okay, nice. The usual suspects,
Yeah.
man. Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to say 2-1. And so I will say a Archie goal this weekend,
There you go.
Wilfred Zaha goal.
Nice.
And so 2-1. I'm not going to get into, because last time I said we'll see the best performance.
No more details.
They got destroyed. So I'm going to just play it safe and say 2-1. Awesome. Now let's move to the opposite side of the spectrum in terms of team.
Yeah.
Now you're also going to have to go play Nashville, who you've already played at home, a rotated Nashville, and you weren't able to beat them, right? So now Nashville has every single advantage going into this game, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to play midweek, right? The momentum this team has right now is skyrocketed. Yeah. I think it's 3 wins in a row for them.
On the road,
which is insane, right? 9 points out of 9.
Yep.
Yes, they beat America, one of the best teams in the continent, in CONCACAF Champions, right?
First MLS team ever to win in Estadio Azteca. We're just piling it on here right now for Alex.
We got some Chivas fans in here. That's why we're getting some no's. Yeah. But, we talked about seeing, Espinoza and Honey Mukhtar and Sam Surge on the bench. I don't think that's going to be the same case this weekend, Brian.
Well, maybe Surge. We'll see. Surge has gotten hurt, so he hasn't played the last couple of games. He was questionable this last week, so we'll see. Questionable, so, he's probably going to be returning soon. But, yeah, other than that, everybody else is going to, I would imagine, be full go. They do have to play Tigres, I think, on Tuesday, so it is a quick turnaround for them, but I'd imagine their likely rotation is for them after that Tuesday game, and so I'd imagine Hani Mukhtar is out there. He's in good form right now. Just had a couple of assists this last game, and this is going to be a tough one. I mean, after what we saw from them this last week, this Nashville team has been super, super impressive this year. The fact that they are at the top of the Eastern Conference and advancing through CCC into the semifinals, and good Liga MX teams on the way and doing just historic things. Having to go get a win in Mexico is just something that MLS teams just don't typically do. And for them to have to go get a result and get a win and get a shutout, I mean, come on, that's pretty ridiculous.
Absolutely. Justin, a very, very tough game, this Nashville. What are you expecting?
Well, I'm hoping that, I'm expecting us to play a lot of defense. I'm hoping that we can really park the bus from the start and counterattack. And this is one of those games where we're going to have to scrap and just hope we can keep a clean sheet. And that's really the goal, is to keep a 0-0 outcome. I think that's really a victory for us. Maybe we get a counterattack opportunity, direct opportunity, or a free kick, some kind of out of the run and play type opportunity. But I don't anticipate us getting a lot. I mean, we're not a particularly dominant offensive team as is, so I don't see us getting a lot of opportunities. So if we get one, we've got to take it. I think we just need to, it's going to be a real testament to how organized our defense is when we keep it, when we know we just got to defend.
Yeah.
And that can be good. That can be easy for teams. That can be hard. That's, I think, the game plan going in.
I'd imagine there'd be a picture of Cholo Simeone in that locker room after Wednesday to try to embrace that Atletico Madrid power this Saturday. And so you touched a little bit on it, Brian, but I want to go back to what kind of lineup, are you expecting for this game, right? Because like you mentioned, for me, if you have a game that you're going to win, it's going to be the Orlando game. That's the game that you've got to get, right? Yeah. You go to Nashville and you get a loss, you're like, okay, you can, to a degree, accept it just because of how good they've been. But speaking of that, I think Justin laid it out well as well. You're not going to be on the offensive against Nashville in Nashville.
No, but I do think this is also a moment. So say they do get the 3 points in Orlando. Depending on what happens with Miami midweek, they got to go to RSL, and that's not an easy place to play, especially right now. RSL are in really good form. So say Miami drops points there. Going into the weekend, there's an opportunity for Charlotte to claim the top spot in the Eastern Conference. So while I don't expect this to be an easy game by any stretch, I do think this weekend's game presents an opportunity for Dean and this group of players to kind of show
that's a really good point.
Actually made progress, right? We've talked to Ashley Westwood, and he said multiple times, we're better than Nashville, we're better than Miami, right? We've heard these comments, we've heard them say this against, like for like, pound for pound, throughout the course of the year, the progress they want to make, the evolution of this team we want to see. And so I think being on the road, especially getting 3 points against New York, I think does show, even though play style didn't evolve, being able to fight and find a way to get 3 points that you don't necessarily count on is, for me, a little bit of an evolution. You need to see more of that, but I think having a moment like this where you could potentially steal first place in the East, however you have to do it, is a mentality evolution that I think you could kind of see.
Yeah, actually, that's a really great point.
I teed that up. Did you see that?
Yeah, you did. The more I think about, and this goes again, if we're going to talk about this team being a top team in the East, and they want to get to that echelon of the top tier teams in MLS, you have a perfect opportunity this week to show us that you can get 6 points. Yeah. Now, do I believe that? I'm not so sure based on what I've seen. And we talked a lot about this in our last show, where it just still feels like this team hasn't evolved. But Justin, this presents a very great opportunity for these guys to show, 9 points in 7 games, right? 9 points in 3 games, right? And start fighting for the top of the East.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an opportunity to show where we are and show if we can be that top team in the East. I personally don't think we're there. I I'm not setting myself up for disappointment because I don't envision things going well in Nashville. Just given our history and just previous performances, I don't think we're there yet. And even on the defensive end, we're fully at this point. We counterattacking again. Our finishing hasn't been that good. It's just a lot of smaller fixes that we just need to gel better together and make those key plays, contributions, and I just see it as a dominant performance by Nashville, and we're just going to be clinging. And that I hope I'm wrong on that prediction, but there's nothing that I've seen from this team that kind of, and the New York FC game kind of reinforces that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned it earlier too, Brian, and so you're taking all my good points, which is great, about, players that you want to see more of. I think Luca De La Torre has a chance this week. Yep. Any other player that you would love to see, like, hey, we need you to step up, and these two games provide an opportunity, given how heavily rotated this team's has to be in these two games. There's going to be rotations, maybe not heavy rotations, but there's going to be rotations.
I mean, I think Henry Kessler is a name I would throw out there. I think he's got to be really close to a starting spot. And I think also, Dean mentioned this in preseason, he'd like to see more goals out of his center back, and Kessler did that in his performance with Legacy as he was rehabbing and then did it for the first team at US Open Cup. So, he's done it throughout his MLS career. So I think that's also a situation where you get a spot where you can steal a point or 3 points in Nashville, and you need a set piece to do it, and you have a guy like Kessler involved. I think that's another interesting one.
Yeah, it's good. Goal per game for Charlotte FC, Kessler. So
and that might be something where Dean looks at that and puts him as a starter in the Nashville game. Yeah, because of the offensive. If we get a couple corners, that's how we're going to win this game. Yeah, is by the clean sheet and a corner.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine too, if Tim Ream isn't available Wednesday, he goes back to back. Although that'll be tough too, because he's just coming back from an injury. So yeah, that'll be an interesting shape, because he might just go, like you said, maybe he goes Morrison, Andrew Privet this next week, and then saves. There's a lot of it's very interesting how the type of lineup we could see and how he could tinker for both of these matches, given to just how I feel like these two teams are in extreme they're extreme opposites right now, both Orlando and Nashville. So so two really good games to watch out for Charlotte FC this week. Obviously, I think winning in New York kind of puts them in the right track again. That's where I was concerned. I was like, you weren't able to beat Nashville. Now you got to go to New York. And I honestly, I thought we probably would have gotten a draw, but a win was much needed. And now they have opportunity to, like you said, actually, the more you talked about that, Brian, the more hey, this is a perfect opportunity for this team to show us, that they do belong in that top echelon of MLS teams. Because if they go and win those two games, then they put themselves in a really good driver's seat, especially the last 5 games before the World Cup. There will all be home games. Yep. And so with that said, Justin, can you give us a little score prediction? What are you thinking of this Nashville game? 3-1 Nashville.
I'm probably going to go, 3-0.
3-0.
I don't see us being able to stop them from scoring. I don't think, and I don't think we're going to be able to score on them. I just don't see us coming through.
Boo this man.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong.
Dang. All right.
What bring the mood down?
Yeah. I was gonna say, Brian, Justin set it up great. So you can't say anything worse. He's like 4-0.
No, I think it's gonna be a gritty game. I think it's gonna be a close game. I do think Nashville probably comes away with all 3. If I were to actually make an accurate prediction based on what I think it's a 2-1 again. It's been 2-1 between these teams the last 3 times I think they've played against each other. So I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be tight. I think even though they don't come away with 3 points, I think they still will show hey, this is a team that's fighting in a tough environment, tough spot, that they can play in these competitive playoff style feels. I think the end of that New York game, even though it was super wide open, Nico scores the goal to get them one back. They're down 2-1. It felt like a playoff game the way it ended, and it was just back and forth and a lot of, and so I think that's what we're going to see from this Nashville game is that it's two playoff teams going at it.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to be way more positive than you guys, I think we'll see what Justin said, just going to sit back, take the shots in, and, we're going to see prime Atletico Madrid, prime Arsenal this weekend where it's just going to be tough. And then off of a set piece, maybe Henry Kessler gets a header, 1-0 smash and grab, let's go home, and so I will take that all day and twice on Sunday. That's what I'm going to go for. And so I'm going to bet on the 6-point week this week. And hopefully by the time we come do this podcast next Monday, we're talking about 2 wins and hopefully not 2 defeats. And so, so obviously 1-0, I'm going to go with, our founding father, Henry Kessler. And so that's kind of a running joke with us. I'm like, he has a name that kind of sounds like a founding father. Like if you just say it really fast, like George Washington, John Adams, Henry Kessler, like it sounds like, he belongs in there.
Well, Henry's a good start. That adds some age to it.
Oh, man. With that said, Justin, where can people find you at?
You can find us on Instagram. The law firm is the Olsinski Law Firm. JCOlaw.com is the website. If you need anything, legal needs, we have you covered.
And you've got a lot of content on the Instagram. Like if anyone has any good questions about anything law related, you can go on there and find some really good information and reach out to you guys.
Yeah, we try and put as much content out there, trying to answer any legal questions that we consistently have and trying to give people some information.
And some very interesting questions too. Like sometimes you talk about certain topics, I'm like, let me listen to this real fast.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stories.
Nice. And Brian, where can people find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Bam Mauer Media, written content, topbin90.com.
Jorge Gonzalez, we're Top Bin 90 on all our socials. Big week for Charlotte. Hopefully they get some wins. Over and out.